It was a cold winter night in a small town in Russia. The streets were covered in thick snow, and the air was freezing. Most people were inside their warm homes, drinking hot tea. But in a quiet alley, a little cat named Masha was wandering alone. She had no home, no owner, just a kind old lady who sometimes gave her food. Masha was used to the cold. Her long, fluffy fur kept her warm. But that night, something felt different. She walked slowly, her small paws pressing into the snow. Then, she heard something. A soft, weak sound, a tiny cry. She stopped. Her ears twitched. It sounded like a baby. Masha followed the sound and found a small cardboard box in the corner of the alley. She sniffed it carefully. The box moved slightly, and then she saw him. Inside was a tiny baby boy, wrapped in a thin blanket. His little face was red, and his lips were trembling from the cold. His eyes were barely open. Masha's heart raced. She didn't understand why the baby was there, but she knew one thing: it wasn't safe. It was too cold. He needed warmth. He needed help. Without thinking, Masha climbed into the box and curled up next to him. Her soft fur wrapped around his tiny body, and she started purring, deep, warm, comforting. She licked his little fingers, trying to keep him warm. Hours passed. The night got colder, but Masha didn't move. She stayed right there, protecting the baby with her body. Then, as the sun began to rise, footsteps echoed in the alley. A woman who lived nearby was throwing out her trash when she heard something unusual. A cat's deep purring and a faint baby's cry. She rushed over, her eyes widening in shock. A baby! What is he doing here? She gasped. She picked up the child, feeling how cold he was. But to her surprise, he was still alive. Weak, but alive. She looked at Masha, who stayed close, rubbing against the woman's legs as if asking her to help. The woman quickly called for help. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived. Paramedics wrapped the baby in warm blankets and checked his pulse. "This cat saved his life," one of them said, shaking his head in amazement. If she hadn't stayed with him, he wouldn't have made it through the night. The story spread through the town, like wildfire. Everyone was talking about Masha, the stray cat who became a hero. The baby was taken to a hospital, and soon, a loving family adopted him. As for Masha, she was no longer a stray. The kind old lady who had been feeding her took her in for good, giving her a warm home and all the love she deserved. Some say cats only care about themselves, but Masha proved them all wrong. She had no reason to help that baby, no reward, no promise, just pure, selfless love. And that's the kind of hero the world will never forget.